For coming in this afternoon, and I certainly do apologize for the delayed time. It was a little issue there. We're getting started at 3 o'clock with us actually going on the floor at 3 o'clock today, and then trying to catch a break where I could ask for a leave of absence. So with that, members, thank you for coming this afternoon. Audience, thank you for coming as well and being patient with us. The ones that has traveled, thank you. We certainly appreciate it. We have two bills on the calendar today. One is HB 145, Representative Clark, and we will be voting on that today. HB 311 by Representative Wilcox. A public hearing has been called on that. She will go second in the line, and there will be no vote again on HB 311 today. So with that, clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Representative Webb.
Here.
Representative Shaver. Here. Representative Hollis. Representative Treadway.
Here.
Representative Brown.
Here.
Representative Lomax.
Here.
Representative Morris. Representative Holt Jones. Here. Representative Rafferty.
Here.
Representative Robertson. Representative Wells.
All right, thank you. Representative Clark, you are recognized to present HB 145. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to you and members of the committee. So you are probably aware that there's such an act as the Alabama Scrap Tire Environmental Quality Act. Under that current law, ADEM regulates and enforces scrap tire laws. The current law allows ADEM to grant authority to counties that want to enforce scrap tire laws. And so our city of Mobile has requested such authority. Members of our delegation, well, let me backtrack. This legislation, this bill only applies to a Class 2 municipality, which is, of course, is Mobile. And the members, I think I probably have almost all of the members of our House delegation as co-sponsors of this bill, so they're well aware of it. I'll quickly pass around an ugly picture. You all probably have seen on occasion where people have just dumped. Red Lomax, I'm sorry that was in black and white. The one coming around is in color. It just causes a lot of blight. And our city is willing to take on this task of regulating and would be able to penalize folk who break this particular law.
Yep.
When you get a tire changed, it was called to my attention that as consumers, we pay a $3 fee for the disposal of tires. So there's no reason why people ought to be dumping them illegally on the side of the road. And our city wants to do something about that.
And I completely agree, and I appreciate the visual. Again, members, this only affects the Class 2 municipality, and that is Mobile at this time. So with no further questions or any questions, I will entertain a motion. I have a motion by Representative Rafferty, a second by Representative Shaver. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? HB 145 has received a favorable report, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you.
That was pretty easy. Good job, Alan.
All right, our next bill up is HB 311 by Representative Wilcox. She does have a handout. Again, we do have a public hearing on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to present HB 311. This is an improvement district, which I've heard this on an industrial basis, but this is for residential improvements. And we do this in a lot of neighboring states. This shows you what is going on in the states that are surrounding us. But in an interest of time, I would like for the people that have flown in specifically to speak to this committee to get that time, and I'll be able to come up if you have any more questions for me.
Does anyone have any questions for Representative Wilcox? Again, no vote today, but she will bring the bill back up next week or when we return back to our session. Anyone opposed to that? If not, we will begin our public hearing part. There will be an opposition and supporters. If you would, please call the first name, clerk.
Mr. Phil Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Phil Hunt, Mobile, Alabama, 2657 Wellington Drive. I think you've already handed this out, haven't you, the cover? So I'll be very brief. I know I don't have much time, but I want to let you know. So we work in most of the southeastern states helping developers finance projects, residential, mixed use, things like that. Every state in the southeast, except Georgia right now, has a version of this assessment bill on the books. Alabama's is Chapter 99A, Improvement District Law. But what you'll notice is Alabama's very sparingly used it in the last 20 years. Reason being, we have one problem in the law. Every other state in the southeast, literally Florida to Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and hopefully soon to be Georgia because we dropped the bill there. All of them collect these assessments on the property tax bill in like manner and like time as ad valorem taxes. Right now, Alabama's 99A law, it's a mortgage foreclosure process, very quick and arcane. It's 10 days of notice and no right of redemption. So the institutional investors like doing things with uniformity. They like the way it is in these other states on the tax bill. So what we have proposed is a bill that would put it on the tax bill like these other states, pay the revenue commissioner or tax collector's office for the collection services, and it would have the added benefit of repealing, well, if you move to this, it's an either or. You could use the old method or the new method. The new method wouldn't have the arcane no right of redemption. So the tax certificate process, as you know, has basically a 3-year process. So that's what we're trying to do. There was 166 of these financings in Florida last year. There was one in Alabama. I did it at Mid-City Huntsville. And it's just not widely used because the institutional investors don't like the collection mechanism the way it is right now. So that basically is what the proposed bill would do. Let me make sure if I've got any other notes. One thing is it's very, very widely accepted by the mortgage companies now across the nation. As you know, mortgage companies they escrow for taxes and insurance. In all these other states that have this law, they escrow for taxes, insurance, and assessment. So very widely used, very widely accepted under this mechanism. And that's it.
Yeah, members, do you have any questions for Phil? So just for clarity, you had 166 projects in Florida. You know how many you're doing in Tennessee?
Right now, it just passed about 9 months ago, but we have probably 10 that are in different stages of creation right now.
Okay, and one of the big issues, and maybe ACCA can shed some light on this, is adding the non-ad valorem assessments to the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's okay.
So that's really what we want to try and do. It'd be below the ad valorem line. It's an additional line item.
And they will be getting paid for that service.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Florida, for instance, is 2% of all assessments goes to the county tax collector's office, and that's what we proposed here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you would.
Yes, Jeff DeVoe.
Good afternoon, thank you for the time. My name is Jeff DeVoe, Senior Vice President with D.R. Horton. For a bit of background, we're a national home builder, built across the United States, 33 states, 125 markets, and probably the biggest builder here in Alabama. We are supportive of HB 311 largely because it would allow us the ability to potentially lower the cost of housing. We are utilizing these districts around the U.S., Texas, Florida, Colorado, Utah, California, and the key for us is that it allows the district to finance the infrastructure through Wall Street, through a much lower cost of capital than really the developers can do, or even the mortgages that folks who live in the neighborhood are having to actually pay. So for that perspective, being able to have a collection process through the tax assessor gives stability, gives continuity from the securities side of issuing the bonds, and makes it much more cost effective for us in bringing down overall home prices. So we're supportive.
Any questions that we have? Just a question from the chair. You have used this in the past,
Oh, yes.
multiple states.
Multiple states. Now, they're all built a little bit differently. In some places like Florida, they're straight assessment bonds. Other places like Colorado or Texas are assessment value. But the taxing authority will levy an assessment on the price of the house, and you get a percentage of that goes into your tax bill. But we utilize them everywhere.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jeff. I certainly appreciate your time.
Of course, thank you.
Sonny Braswell.
I know the members of this committee are very excited that you got leave of the House so that you could listen to me talk.
You have 2 minutes, Sonny. Let's go.
Mr. Chairman,
Good.
and I have only Price, the Revenue Commissioner of Lee County here who can answer any tough ad valorem tax questions. But we rise to let you know that from the perspective of county government, we are very concerned about putting the revenue commissioners in a position of enforcing these assessments and being placed in the position of either auctioning off a tax lien against the property or selling the property on the courthouse steps because this assessment was not paid. And that is the effect of what you're being asked to do with this piece of legislation. Though it would not be an ad valorem tax, it would be treated as though it was an ad valorem tax for the purpose of enforcement, which would mean those property owners or people who buy the house from the person who bought the house originally, the assessment would track with that. It would be shown on the tax bill, and it would be collected as though it was an ad valorem tax and enforced as though it was an ad valorem tax. We've had very positive discussions with the sponsor, and we appreciate her willingness to listen to our concerns. We look forward to trying to find a mechanism, for one thing, to not make this mandatory on every county, to put it in a position that those decisions can be made at the local level. I think y'all all know very well the revenue commissioners are elected, and those persons who face the possibility of their homes being sold on the courthouse steps because this assessment was not paid, they're very concerned about that. We met this morning at our office with their leadership and their legislative committee on this issue. So we'll continue to try to work toward a resolution, but at this point, we would ask this committee to hold this bill until we can find a way to work through the problems, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Sonny? Certainly appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Bradley Need.
Good evening. Bradley Need, Prattville, Alabama, so just up the road. Fairly new into development, and we're looking at a whopper of a project in Prattville. It's going to be about a $500 million mixed-use development. And so I wanted to add a little bit of a different flavor. So whereas this is an extremely powerful tool for single-family homes, we're doing medical office towers, assisted senior living, branded daycare, multifamily, retail. And so all of that can benefit as well, because this is more of a public infrastructure capital spend. And so everything in the improvement districts, dollars come in, have to be spent on public infrastructure, roads, sewers, stormwater, sidewalks. And so there's no private benefit of those funds. But what makes this really powerful is that Alabama's already approved improvement districts. We can go through the formation process. This really just empowers us to maximize that potential. And so as developers, we have two choices. We can either come out of pocket right now in Alabama, which means that everything's front-loaded, whether that's single-family homes, whether that's medical office towers. We've got to recoup our investment as quickly as possible. With improvement districts, that can be deferred over 30 to 40 years at very, very low money rates right now. We're in the 5% range. So that's why I'm in favor of this bill, is it allows us to bring better projects to Alabama. It doesn't cost the city or the municipalities anything. It allows us to use Wall Street's funds. For whatever reason, they don't like Alabama because they like the predictability of the assessment collections. I don't even think Wall Street knows their own algorithms, so I can't speak to that, but ultimately, we play by their rules, and so that's why we're in favor of this bill.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from the committee?
For whomever will answer. So if a property owner fails to pay the assessment, is there a length of time?
Currently, it's very, very narrow. It's a 10-day period. If they don't pay their assessment after they're notified, then they owe the entire assessment over the 20, 30, or 40-year period at once. If they're unable to make that payment, then it goes into foreclosure. None of us are in favor of that. So ultimately, yes, this new bill would fall into the current rules, the ad valorem foreclosure. But the way my understanding is the way ad valorem is collected, it's all or nothing. It's a lump sum.
So is there a process before the actual foreclosure?
Yeah.
Let's represent Phil.
Yeah, yes,
recognize.
ma'am. So the way the law works now from 1999 until today, it's a very arcane and quick foreclosure process. The law says it's a mortgage-like foreclosure. It's 10 days of notice, you foreclose, no right of redemption. So that's what we're saying, is that's very arcane, it's pretty brutal. If you put it on the tax bill, you have a well-established tax certificate sale process for 3 years in Alabama, rights of redemption. So it's better even for the end user.
Okay, so, because I've seen some drastic things happen, you know, when a person maybe missed an assessment, and it could be for several reasons. That person is out of town, or the person did not get the notice. And then they actually forget about it, and then once they find out, then they go and pay it up or whatever they have to do. So that's why I was asking, was there a process with it, and what the process was, or we finding out who own these particular properties, you know, to get in touch with whomever. I have seen properties actually get torn down, and then the owner, whoever the owner was, the heirs coming in to see Big Mama's house, and Big Mama's house is gone, and nobody has said anything, and nobody got a notice.
So you're actually making my point for me. That's the problem with the way it's currently written. It's a 10-day notice requirement, foreclosure, no right of redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to do it. One, it's better for Wall Street investors, much lower interest rates, gets passed on to lower home costs. But in the end run, at the end, it's better for the home buyers. The home buyers have the normal tax certificate process for 3 years,
Okay.
rights of redemption. It's better
So
for the
they
home on the
they
front end.
also have to pay the improvements as well, the same thing?
Well, that's how we
Yeah,
finance the
right.
improvements, is through this bond issue.
Right, okay.
And look, and like I said, we want to pay the tax collectors for doing this. I mean, we put 2% in there right now, you know, that's obviously negotiable, that's what it is in Florida. You know, we want to pay them for their services to do it. And frankly, the way it works is a company like ours, we serve as the district manager, we maintain assessment rolls for over 100,000 lots in Florida right now. On a date certain each year, we certify those assessment rolls to the tax collector's office. They send it to us in Excel spreadsheets. We populate it with the assessments, send it back to them. So it's not a whole lot of work on their side. It's more on our
Right,
side.
and I just wanted to be clear, because all I heard was, when I came in late, I did, but all I heard was improvement districts. So, and I just wanted to make sure that there was a system and that it was clear, and that we are making sure that we're giving people opportunity, you know, to do what they need to do in order to keep their property before we improve their property more than what it is.
That's what this will do. Thank you.
All right, members, any other questions or for Representative Wilcox, any discussion? Yes, Representative.
Sure, I know we're not voting today, but I would seriously like to consider voting yes on this, because this is very pro-growth, pro-economic development. It's nothing but a way to maximize dollars for long-term investments, and it's just to be a great thing for the state. So, and I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you, Representative. Yeah, Representative
I
Hollis.
just want to make sure that we clearly read the bill and know what it says. And if I have any issues or questions, Marge, I will come to you.
You know my door's always
Yeah,
open.
absolutely. Because, you know, I've just seen a lot of damage, you know, to individuals when it comes to property and paying and missed payments and all that stuff. So
Well, I've been really impressed, as I've learned, just like y'all have, I'm only about a month ahead of y'all, because I'm on your house. But I'm impressed with how the process of forming the government entity where people will have a voice, can be a part of it, and how they get the district certified pre-hand, because there has been some talk about some liability, but it's certified ahead of time by the courts, and then he certifies and does most of the work in certifying what people owe. So any questions that you have, only make it a better deal. As we've been talking about it with many other people on the floor, and as I've encountered them, today somebody said, you really should have named this as a workforce housing bill, because we've got a lot of these big plants coming in and not adequate housing. So, I might consider doing something like that, because it really does lower the cost of housing for first-time home buyers.
Recognizes Representative Radford.
I was going to ask a very simple question, is that will this increase or decrease the price of a house, and would it make more affordability for it? So,
It will.
more inventory as well.
You'll do both, yes, sir.
You answered the question before.
Oh, yes, sir.
I was gonna add to that, in other markets where we utilize districts, we're very thoughtful on the amount of projected taxes, assessments may be. And typically, that goes into our math in terms of how we build. We know we have to build, $300,000 average sales price house. The home buyer has to meet that mortgage amount, but they also have to cover that number. And so we work all that into making sure that what we build is affordable to carry all of that. And oftentimes what you see is average housing prices go down a little bit to make up for the fact they have to carry that assessment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because again, that assessment's paid over 30 years, oftentimes a much cheaper rate than the mortgage rate, or even what the developer's cost of capital would have to do if they were to do it upfront.
I just have
Representative Hollis.
one other question. Are you guys from Alabama?
I'm from Texas,
I'm from Mobile.
I live in Prattville, but I'm not from America. I'm from England originally. You can tell by my accent, but I married a girl from Alabama. So.
Okay, sound like a good girl. Well, I just wanted to know because here again, this is what I do for a living, and I'm out here. And we have a lot of folks that's coming from Texas, California, New York, and they're acquiring our properties. And of course, hell, that's what I do, I'm gonna sell it to them. But at the same time, we as Alabamians need to start buying our own properties and doing good things with it because, we look around, Alabama ain't gonna own Alabama anymore when it comes to housing and commercial buildings. So that's why I asked that question, because we have so many folks that's coming in and swiping up our properties, and believe it or not, this is what I do, this is how I make my money, because this cannot feed me. I am also one of those ones that go to the houses of the elderly and say, do not sell your homes because $60,000 is a lot of money to some people. But if I could buy your house for $60,000 and do my rehab, I could sell your house in this community for $360,000. So, and I don't have anything against what you're doing.
Yeah.
I just don't want people to be taken advantage of. And I'm taking it that extra mile because I'm out here every day and I know what's going on, and that's why I asked where you're from.
Well, and to be clear, we don't either. We have a brand to protect. I think we're the largest home builder in Alabama, and the houses we are building are new neighborhoods for Alabama folks, and so we hear you, and we have a brand to protect, and definitely don't want to be in that position either.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may interject, I can tell you that D.R. Horton is absolutely very active in Madison County, Limestone County. The gentleman mentioned earlier that he has done a project in Mid-City. That project was Mid-City. We certainly appreciate the invitation, the investment in North Alabama. Certainly, I think Alabama is in a pro-business state, and we're a business-friendly state, and I look forward to working on this bill. Hopefully, we can get these answers. The answers to these questions and small problems I think that we may have. I think we're very close, and I'd like to see some movement as Representative Brown suggested. I think this is a good thing, and I'd like to see it moving forward. So thank you. If there's no further questions, I will take a motion to adjourn. Second, all adjourned. Thank you.
Members, there is a substitute to the bill in your packet, so make sure you take that one. It was a very interesting.